Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. So, there is a lot of talk about EV adoption slowing down, and some even expect EV adoption to drop in 2024. On a global scale, I think that is ridiculous, and the legacy automakers making a big mistake, as we see BMW and Germany's transport minister out saying that EVs will drop in 2024 and ICE are still the superior technology. The Germans are truly digging their own graves faster and faster. So let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So there is a lot of talk about EV adoption slowing down, and some even expect that it will drop in 2024. There might be countries, for one reason or another, that might shrink, just as not all markets grew in 2023. But the EV market still grew from about 8 to 10 million units. And just because many of the old legacy automakers are lowering their targets does not mean that they will shrink in 2024, just that they'll lower their ambitions on how fast they thought they could grow. And they thought everyone would just love their EVs, but as this is not the case, the demand for their EVs are not as high as for their ICE cars. People are suddenly looking at Teslas instead, or even the Chinese, like MG4 was actually the third best-selling EV in Europe in 2023, beating the very similar car from Volkswagen, the ID.3. The MG4 sold about 20% more than the ID.3 in Europe. So the Chinese are not coming. They are already here. But more will come in 2024. Someone like BYD was very small in Europe in 2023, but seems to be off to a very good start in 2024. Even before we have all the numbers here from January in 2024, BYD is already up by 10x in sales numbers in January compared to last year. So the legacy automakers might be slowing down and cutting back on production, but not the Chinese. They are just getting started, and Tesla is also pushing the accelerator. We do know that because of the trouble in the Red Sea, the ships from China to Europe have to go all the way around Africa, adding cost and time to deliveries of the Chinese-made cars to Europe. But maybe that incentivized Tesla to ramp up the Berlin factory even more, because we have just learned that the Berlin factory has now reached 6,000 units a week in production for the first time ever, and Tesla hit the 5,000 a week in week 11 in 2023. So it has been almost a year, and Tesla went from 4,000 to 5,000 within a month. But the 5,000 mark is also kind of the very first and very important milestone to hit, because that is when the factory starts to earn some money as they get to the economy of scale. So that is the most important number to get to, and then I think Tesla wanted to see how everything went with the economy and interest rates and so on before they take it to the next level. But now it seems that they are getting ready to ramp up Berlin factory even more. At the same time, the Chinese are really starting to ramp up for their export to Europe, and the old guys are slowing down. This will hurt them so badly, in my opinion. This is not an opinion that is shared with everyone, of course, and definitely not by BMW, as Bloomberg had an article about how Germany was expecting not just a slowdown in the growth of EVs, but an actually drop in sales numbers in 2024. And EVs will not be the only powertrain. As they wrote in this article, Germany's dream of 15 million electric vehicles is fading away. Without subsidies, German EV sales are set to drop 14% this year Audi, Volkswagen are among those scaling back EV-related ambitions. Standing at the front of the room at the Auto Industry Association's New Year reception in Berlin this week, BMW's CEO Oliver Zipse had reasons to feel vindicated. On stage, Transport Minister Volker Wissing was preaching to the crowd of policymakers and industry executives about this importance of technological openness in reducing transmission emission. A singular focus on battery-powered vehicles by policymaker and manufacturer is leaving Germany's most important industry exposed, he said. With the forecast of slumping EV demand in Europe's biggest car market hanging over his message. This is the same guy that was kind of in an argument with the French minister trying to get the ban of ICE cars in 2035 delayed. So yes, you do know where the German policymakers and auto industry stand on this one, as they know they are being disrupted, and it is happening fast, so they are trying to delay it the best they can, as yes, even the little MG4 is outselling the ID3 on its home turf in Europe, and the Model Y and the Model 3 has taken the 2 top spots. They should be afraid. But Zipse has been making the same points for years, advocating for flexible production lines for combustions, hybrids, and even hydrogen-powered cars. His cautious strategy, which chimes with his predecessors, was attacked as not aggressive enough on challenging the electric leader Tesla. Now Zipse appears to have seen into the future, with EV adoption slowing and plug-in hybrids making a return from the sidelines. BMW's careful approach no longer looked like such a bad idea. Yes, it does. Just because the old legacy automakers are having trouble competing in the EV market and therefore want to focus more on hybrids is a desperate move to get some momentum in the electrified vehicle space. Does not mean that the rest of the industry will follow and customers' choice will suddenly change. BYD and Tesla and many of the other pure EV players will not take a step back or begin with hybrids or even dumber hydrogen cars. They will continue pushing the accelerator, grabbing more of the overall car market, while the old guys stumble with their many powertrains, never getting to economy of scale on anything. As Jan Buschgart, head of automotive consultant Barrel Strategy Advisors, said, in Germany, demand for electric vehicles does not look good this year. The upper end of the EV market is almost saturated, and there is little on offer in the low end of 25,000 euro segment. After years of surging growth, selling EVs is becoming tougher. Generous government incentives are disappearing in Europe, and fewer vehicles qualify for them in the US, while a range of new models and commitment-light leasing options have attracted the attention of electric enthusiasts. Some years into the EV revolution, infrastructure and price still remain roadblocks with widespread adoption. In Germany, sales are set to drop 14% this year in response to the government yanking subsidies in December, the first decline since 2016 according to the VDA lobbying group. Globally, market watchers have trimmed forecast amid the enduring reality that vehicles are much less affordable than equivalent combustion engine cars, despite a price war kicked off by Tesla. Well, again, I very much disagree here. Yes, Germany might see a drop in sales because of the disappearance of incentive, but that will probably only be short-term and only in Germany. But Germany is not the entire market. It is just one country, whereas many other countries are accelerating like nothing before, making Norway's EV adoption look like a slow, ID3. Take Thailand, for example, also quite a big market in Asia. Sales of electric vehicles were turbocharged in Thailand in 2023, surging by 684% compared to previous year, as Thai drivers increasingly take to the new automotive technology. Even some of Thailand's famous tuk-tuks, the three-wheel taxis, known for their noisy engines and spewing exhaust, has gone electric. But EV amounted to 12% of the total vehicle registration in the kingdom last year, a significant slice of the market, and getting to that famous tipping point of 10%. And we can see that in January 2024 sales in Thailand continues up the steep S-curve of the EV adoption, as they in January 2024 had 20.5% BEV market share. They are not slowing down because the Chinese and Tesla are really starting to ramp up in EV sales in Thailand. So sure, maybe Germany will see a drop in EV adoption, but if that happens, I think that will be even worse for the future of the German auto industry, as there is no doubt in my mind that EVs will be the car of the future, and the Germans are now slowing down in the middle of the race and wasting time and money on technology we already know will fail. Hydrogen will never be as efficient as an EV, and green hydrogen will always be made by electricity. The same thing we can just run the damn car on, but they want to waste about 2/3 of that energy on making hydrogen, compressing it and transporting it and so on. It will never be viable for transportation sector, especially for passenger cars. We have even pulled down all hydrogen stations in my country. Here the race is already over. BEVs was closing in on 40% in 2023 in my country, up from 20% just a year earlier. And in all of 2023, there was one, and I repeat, one hydrogen car sold. And you can bet your money that that person regretted that buy, as he no longer can fill up his hydrogen car in my country. So the stupid argument about technological openness is just the German car industry trying desperately to keep the fossil fuel burning cars alive a little bit longer, polluting our air a little bit longer. And when asked what the government could do to bolster the German EV market, the transport minister offered one thought: charging infrastructure. So yes, the German government is behind the target of putting up charging infrastructure, but again, I have been driving nothing but EV for almost 5 years all over Europe, and I would never go back to an ICE car. I much prefer to drive an EV even on road trips, because 80% of my charging in a year is all still done at home, or other slow chargers at hotels, which is also very convenient. So 80% of the time, I don't even spend those 5 minutes at the gas station that the ICE cars do. I save all that time, 80% of the time. Only on road trips do I spend more time filling up the ICE car, but overall in a year, I save time. And I still don't want that any other way, especially in the wintertime. I'm so glad I can just fill it up at home, while the ICE car drivers has to go in the freezing snowy weather to fill up their ICE cars, while they breathe in some of that all nice toxic cancer-making gases at the gas station. And Tesla is, of course, offering the solution to their customers with their great charging network and integration with the car and navigation system. So, of course, most people will choose Tesla over anything else, as we have seen for many years now and still do here in 2024. So, because the Germans are scared, they are starting to think that Oliver Zipse was right, as Zipse said. Do you think regions like southern Italy will have charging stations in every village within 12 years? No, Zipse. They are basically already there, as you can see on this map from Blockshare. There are chargers all over Sicily, and you don't get much more South Italy than that. And this is not including Tesla Supercharger that is also available, or all the home chargers that are also available. These are just more excuses from the German automakers, and I think they are making a fatal mistake by slowing down, as Tesla and the Chinese are speeding up. As we do see Tesla's growing in BEV market share in January compared to December, even though December is usually a stronger month than January, so doubling their market share in BEVs from 7 to 14% in the month after the incentives are gone. And EV sales were supposed to collapse now, right? But Tesla doubled their BEV market share in Germany. But maybe because the old guys are slowing down, because they are giving Tesla more room to grow in market share again in Germany, which they have not been doing in 2023, as they had an insanely high market share in the beginning of the year, but then they fell during 2023. So year over year, Tesla is down from their very high sales numbers in the beginning of 2023, but now Tesla doubled their BEV market share in January, month over month. And maybe that is because the Germans give them space to grow. And Tesla is seizing this opportunity, and that is why they are now accelerating again in the Berlin factory, because the old guys are slowing down. Well, let's seize that opportunity and grab some more market share. As more and more people still want EVs. But if you know you have to wait 6 or 12 months to get one from the legacy automakers, but you only have to wait a month or two to get one from Tesla or maybe the Chinese, that is even better EVs, you are literally handing over customers to your competition. And for the German minister to say that EVs are still more expensive is just BS. Yes, we are still missing mass-produced $25,000 EVs, but that will come from many players in 2024, including Tesla, and that will make the EV adoption take off like a rocket, even more than it already has, and the Germans will not be ready for it. So this year, we might have a transition year, but that does not mean that EV sales will go down, and to say that EVs are more expensive than an equivalent ICE car is just BS in my opinion, as Tesla's refreshed Model 3 is, in my country, cheaper than the average selling price of a car in my country. And you can't find any equivalent ICE cars that is that good for that price, and on top of that, have true cost of ownership taken into calculation, the ICE cars simply just collapse next to the Tesla Model 3. And BYD has a starting price of their BYD Dolphin in my country of $36,000. And that might still sound a little bit expensive, but that is actually $17,000 lower than the average selling price of a car in my country. So that is quite an affordable EV. And I would much rather have the BYD Dolphin than the Volkswagen Polo ICE car or any other equivalent ICE car. As I have said many times before, I will never go back to ICE car, polluting the air around my children and so on. And as an everyday car, the BEV is just a superior car in every way compared to the ICE car, if you ask me. And if you really want a cheap, crappy car, like completely cheap and crappy ICE car, like the Toyota Yaris or E-Up or something like that, well, we do already have the Dacia Spring from about $23,000 in my country. So to say they don't have any EVs at $25,000 is simply just not true. And in China, they already have loads of them. BYD has the Seagull for $10,000. So sure, they might cost twice as much when they come to Europe, but that is still only $20,000. So will probably be lower than that 25,000 euros the German minister is talking about. And even Hyundai has just been out saying that they will this year launch a fully electric version of their Casper Mini crossover in Europe that could sell for less than 20,000 euros. So to say we don't have any compelling EVs that can match ICE cars on cost is simply just false. And as an EV is more superior and true cost of ownership much cheaper, you kind of have to compare an EV over a 5-year span to an ICE car that costs about $20,000 less. If you drive as much as me and live in my country, of course, I save about $20,000 on 5 years by driving my Tesla Model 3 compared to my Mazda 3. And I drive about 40,000 kilometers a year. So to find something that is equivalent to the Tesla Model 3 refreshed but cost $20,000 less, well, that suddenly just makes this task impossible. So we might see a slowdown in Germany as the Germans are slowing down. But maybe Tesla and the Chinese can make up for that. But the rest of the world is still accelerating towards the future of the BEVs. Not hydrogen, not hybrids, fully electric vehicles. And BYD and Tesla are in a race to become the new Toyota and Volkswagen of the automotive industry. And the old guys are stuck between a rock and a hard place because they still have their collapsing ICE business to think about, and they can't keep up in the EV race. They should probably have done what BYD did in the beginning of 2022, stop all production of ICE cars. But of course, they couldn't do that, as their ICE business was much bigger than BYD's. So it would probably not have been possible to just stop their ICE production like BYD did. But how they will get out of this trouble they're in, I have a hard time seeing, as they still don't see that they're standing on a burning platform. But it won't be long before the flames will become so big they start to notice. But I'm afraid it will be too little too late, as the Germans might be slowing down, but I don't see the EV adoption slowing down. So if that's the case, they will just be left even further behind. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.